markers on it. So if I decide to meet with John at 5 and he shows up at 7, I say, yeah, you're a lazy bugger. Is that describing the situation?
No.
Is it specific?
No.
No. John, when we said we meet at 5 and you arrive at 7, that's describing the situation. And notice, specific and the situation. Anything else causes defensiveness from the person. You're late. You're lazy. You're not working as expected. When you underperform, oh, that's just throwing a bomb at the person. Specific situation. Pinpoint the exact moment in time. Second, assert your feelings. Now, in a business setting, sometimes asserting feelings might sound kind of mushy and kind of therapeutical. So you change the feelings to impressions. You soften it. You make it more professional. But nonetheless, be aware that what you're doing is telling the other person how what they did, how that situation causes an impact on you. Now notice it's your feelings, not the other person. Because nobody can argue with what you feel. I feel sad. Oh, you can't feel sad. So if you put your feelings out there, the impressions that you get from things, what happens is the other person cannot argue. It does not create defensiveness. And then third, and most importantly, name your needs, or in a more business setting, name your values. And this is very important because who has been in a conversation, in a discussion, and at a certain point, one of the two parts goes, okay, but what the hell do you want? Because we have the ability to talk and talk and talk and talk, and we forget to tell the other person exactly what we want. And sometimes we don't even know what we want. So, and your name is Monica. Back to your scenario. You can tell that colleague of yours, so when I'm talking to you, like right now, and I have a hard time seeing that you look at me, that makes me feel, and then you go, how that makes you feel. Make me feel uncomfortable, I'm not sure I'm communicating correctly, so I feel a little bit insecure. Would you be willing to focus on me and on the table or on the work? Would you be willing to do that? And then go from there. So, when you name what you need, the other person feels empowered because they then have the power to accept or not. You pass the ball on. So this simple tool manages to get you to say the right things without all the bombs going off on the other side. Are we going to practice it? Yes, we are. Imagine you're the president of a Toastmasters club. And one of your members has the great ability to give negative feedback on the evaluations to other Toastmasters. And it's starting to bug you. So you really want to get at it. But you decide to put into practice the 3 Ps. So you're first going to be positive, then you're going to be proactive with your body, and then you're going to be practical, and you're going to have a conversation with him. You're going to describe the situation, you're going to assert how that makes you feel, and then you're going to name your needs. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You can do it in pairs if you wish, and then I'm going to call on imposed volunteers to come up here and practice it. Are we good? Okay, go.
What are suggestions?
I would suggest that it would be helpful if you put the choice on the person or the new decreasing
If I take too long, they won't call me back next year. Before the session started, I was outside walking from one side to another, and Amma came up to me and said, so you're the presenter, right? I said, yeah. And you're kind of like psyching yourself out, right? I said, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Literally, that is what I was doing. I don't have time to explain it. Amy Cuddy, social psychologist, TED Talk, look it up, Amy. She explains how what we do with our body literally changes the chemistry. Amy Cuddy, A-M-Y-C-U-D-D-Y. What we do with our bodies, and what I was doing was this, it's called power posing. Long story short, it changes the chemistry in my brain. The levels of stress go down, the levels of testosterone go up, and that results in massive self-confidence. If you go into a conversation, into a conflict, you want to do some power posing before that. Who wants to be our first brave warrior? That gentleman there has a nice smile on his face. What's your name? So describe the situation to your fellow Toastmaster.
Yeah.
Assert the way that makes you feel, and then add name, tell him what or her what you mean. And over there, pretend this is
Try and focus.
yeah.
Okay,
You get to pick.
I've noticed that some of your feedback can be a little bit negative. Therefore, would you be willing to try a different approach?
What was good about John's performance? Very open, very good body language.
Straightforward.
I thought the gestures were a bit too open.
He was in front of an audience, he's a Toastmaster, we're going to give him this.
It's harsh evaluation, that's it.
And see, this is language playing tricks tricks on us. I asked, what did John do well? And we automatically come out with what he could have done better. So let's focus on what he did well. He did many things well. His tone of voice. We didn't. Did you notice anger in there? There was good intent. His body language. What else? Did he describe the situation? He'd be a little bit more specific, but he described the situation. He did not accuse the person of being a bad feedback giver. Did he name what he needed?
Yes.
What missed? What was missing?
What made me feel
The impact of what that person does and how that falls on you. What else could have he improved?
Give a bit of
He
praise.
could have said what he wanted from the person.
Ask the person to be more. When you ask something, ask it in a more specific way. When you describe the situation, and we're Toastmasters, we know the power of giving positive and constructive feedback. No one likes negative feedback. So if I say, I've noticed that your feedback can be sometimes a little bit negative, how can we change that into something positive or constructive?
It's a positive note. To get the person to buy in, you need to say to them, maybe, I really enjoyed your evaluation but I saw that.
Let's be very careful with buts. Describe the situation. The rule of but is like this. Honey, I love you, but your feet stink. The first part disappears. You always stay after the but. That's what sticks. So a way of making it positive would be, I've noticed that some of your evaluations, or your evaluation during this meeting, could have been a little bit more positive. And this is how you can do it. So that doesn't get the person negative. And when I notice that your evaluations can be a little bit more positive, that brings some concern. Because I appreciate the feedback you have to give. And I know the other members do too. And as president of the club, I want everyone to feel okay. So I want you to give your feedback and feel all right with that, and the other members to receive it and also feel all right with that. Would you be willing to reconsider the way you give feedback in the sense of, and then you could go into the details depending on the exact feedback that you give. Does this make sense?
To say the way you give feedback, probably a bit general, is it that has to be specific aspects of that rather than the way you give it?
I didn't understand.
The way you give it is your general approach to giving feedback. But rather to have aspects of that, the way you give those aspects of feedback is more particular.
Definitely. So in this situation, and if I didn't get you right, let me know. We would want to be specific in the exact feedback we give the person and to mention what we want from them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, rather than, I thought what you were saying, give some guidance in the way you give feedback. That's more of a general way, the approach of the person to give feedback. That their way of giving feedback is not what's on the table here, but particular aspects of the
feedback itself.
Exactly, yeah.
And that goes back to what I was saying. So the problem is not the person, the problem is the problem. One more question and we have to go, otherwise somebody's going to kill me.
I think what's really important as well is to give them choices. And what I heard you say just now was that, would you like to consider another way of doing things? I think that was absolutely lovely. Because we should never take away the choice.
Exactly. So you buy in. There was a comment. And the comment was in giving the other person the opportunity to choose. So could you consider other options? And this works lovely when you have to make things go quickly. You give two options, for instance. Or we move on and I tell you the rest of the story of Amy, or we continue answering questions and you don't hear the story. Which do you prefer? Amy. It works. Give them two options and they'll go. Yes, Anna. Thank you. So one day I get to the hospital, I walk into the room, and I look to the corner, and Anna wasn't there. I immediately asked the nurses, where's Anna? And they said, well, she's getting a little bit worse, and we decided to move her to another room. And so I immediately, without thinking, asked to go see her, and I wasn't actually thinking that this was going to be my first interaction with her. And the nurse said, yeah, sure, come on. And so she showed me into the room, and when I walked into the room, Anna looked at me, and she immediately stretched out her hand. So I walked up to her, and I grabbed her hand, and I didn't know what to say. I said, well, hi, my name is Tobias. She smiled. You know, she was tired of knowing my name. I was visiting the hospital for almost a year. And so she also responded with the same humor and said, hi, my name is Anna. And so I smiled too. And then I noticed from her face that she was blinking, she was getting tired, and I asked her if she wanted to rest, and she said yes. So I said, okay, well, I'll see you tomorrow, and then I gave her a kiss on her hand, and I let her rest. And that day, when I came home, it hit me. It hit me that I was thinking that Anna was dealing with a conflict with no solution. And that in some way, me visiting the hospital could help her. And I thought the fact that she had been distant perhaps represented her inability to communicate or her fear. But that night, I noticed that it was none of that, and it was actually the opposite of that. I was the one that was distant, because whenever I was ready to go meet her, she stretched out her hand immediately. I noticed that I was the one that didn't know how to communicate, because the first thing I told her was something insignificant as my name is Tobias. And I noticed that she was not at all afraid, because she welcomed my communication with a smile. And this goes to many times in conflicts and in relationships, we place the solution and the power outside of us. And we think that they will come from the outside. And Anna's story tells me and teaches me exactly the opposite. That even coming from a position of weakness and of pain as she did, she had a very subtle, simple way of being positive, proactive, and extremely practical. That story tells me that there is a different way of doing it, and that power is in my hands. So, in the envelopes that you received, I'd like you to open them. And if you didn't get one, there's more on the way out. I can hand them out. You'll notice there's an elastic, and I'd like you to put that elastic on. And as you put it on, you're committing to one thing. You're committing to identifying someone in your life that plays the role of Anna. Someone in your life that is ready for you when you're ready, that is patient when you're not ready. Someone who, despite the negative things, pushes you forward, gives you that love, that positivity, who's proactive and one step ahead. Someone who is practical about the issues. See, if we have come to this room today, to this workshop, we did not arrive here alone. We arrived with the power and the energy and the love and the effort of people in our lives. So, to that Anna that I met, and to the Annas that are in your lives, I would like you to do this tribute. When the event is over, offer that elastic to an Anna in your life. Tell her the story of the first Anna, and appreciate and thank her. After this, life will continue. My objective is to get a smile on your face when you think of conflict. Because when you smile on the outside, you feel better on the inside.